Hey everybody, it's Gail, and I have an update to the BitchY 2026. If you do not know about the BitchY, it is a project that I am doing. I went through my very large pattern collection, and I chose something that I know is going to drive me a little mad to make, but I really, really want to make it. So I turned it into like a year-long project as opposed to my usual standard of like just sitting down and knocking it out. So that project is this 1950s dress. It was originally made with one of the straw-like yarns. I believe this is Dritz Straw Art. And I am using BC Garn Lino, which is a similar, I hope, a similar like texture and style. It's kind of hard to tell, but that's what I'm using. So first of all, here's how much skirt we're at, and this is the only part of the skirt I give a shit about the measurement because this is the waist, and it needs to be 2 inches longer than my natural waist. My waist is 35, so this needs to be 37. Clearly, we are nowhere near that. The rest of the skirt is poofing. So this is 3 and about 3/4 skeins, and the reason that it's not 4 is because I finished the 3rd skein on the skirt, and I think I bought 12 skeins of the pink, and then I bought a couple of skeins of lilac for the contrast color. But I got through the 3rd skein of the pink, and I'm like, I don't know that I'm going to have enough to make the whole thing. So let's pause on the skirt and let's work on the top half of the dress. And the top half of the dress has 2 pieces. One, this waistband. So this is made to 1 inch larger than your waist, and then this gets sewn onto the top of the skirt, and then we'll go over the bottom edge of the bustier to turn it. That's how you get the dress. It's actually a bustier and a skirt. So made that, and then I also made all the pieces of the bustier, and I bought a bustier. I mean, it's just a long line. Instructions say get a long line, so I got a long line. And so this is, I got this off Amazon. It had good reviews. It stays up. That's all I really care about. And believe you me, I have opinions about strapless anything because you got to remember these used to be much larger. If you need a strapless bra and you have big boobs, you want to pay out for a panache. I bought that bra because I'd worn others on that line, and I was, God, I think I was like a 32I at the time, and I helped someone move wearing that strapless bra. That's how good it is. So that's, if you're looking. This is just a standard 34C bustier, because that's the size I am now. So the bustier is made in the bustier. I'm just going to keep calling it the bustier. The bustier portion of the dress is made in 3 parts. You make, I think it's this way. Okay, it's this way. You make, this is the front piece, so it's going to go on like that. And actually, when I put it up against me, you can see that it's worked so that there is the extra room. You work a set of increases that get it wide enough to like go over the curve of your boobs, and then you work 2 side panels that are just that. So on the top part of the dress, you are working long double crochets. They want them to be, all the double crochets are supposed to be 1/2 inch. And I pretty sure I got there. I figured out, like, I measured several times throughout, and they were all about the same height. Like, are they all exactly 1/2 inch? No, probably not, but they are close enough. And that's kind of the trick to working on long double crochets is you want them even. You want them at the height and even. And as long as that's generally happening, you're fine. So now I have to sew the front piece to the side pieces, and then the instructions say to reinforce the seam there with bias tape, which I have, and then it all gets pinned to this, and then you have to put a dart in on either side so it lays flat, and then you sew it to the bustier, and then you sew the scallop trim to the sewn together bustier. It's several steps. I use a little over 2 skeins for these bits, and it went fairly quickly. I did have to math it out. So in the first video, I talked about that I ended up realizing my yarn and the original yarn were going to size out differently, and so I had to math out to get to the right length for how long I wanted the skirt, which is 28 inches. And so then I also went into, when I started the bustier, I knew I was going to have to math out because I was not going to get the same stitches per inch that the pattern wants you to have because I'm not using the same yarn. And I really need to see if I can track down just a couple of skeins of like these straw-based yarns from the 50s, because just having them here so I can sort of play with them and figure out like how thick are they actually could be very useful in the future, because then I don't have to sit down and do quite as many equations, which will allow me to focus on the project and be like, okay, I'm doing it to the pattern, so everything should be fine. I do think 100%, I think this came out perfectly. And because what I did was I did the chain to as long as it said to do the chain, and then from there, I took that number of how many stitches I had, and then just mathed out like, okay, so it's supposed to be 136, and it's actually supposed to be 136, but it's actually fewer than that. So take the number I'm supposed to have, and I used 136 actually because 136 was the least amount of stitches you were supposed to have, and technically I should have been working the most amount of stitches because of boob size, but because I had fewer stitches than that 136, I just used that as my baseline because it got me the result I needed. And I realized I didn't actually put this on. So yeah, like that's basically what it's gonna look like. And then there's this back piece here, which is where, hold on. There we go. Yeah, and then these back pieces will cover the rest of it, and then the darting will lay it flat against the bustier. When I start doing that part, I'm not doing it yet. When I start working on the part where we got to sew all this together and put the bias tape on and then pin it and do the darts and sew the darts into place, I will try to get really good video of that, because I've never had to go this hard to make part of a dress. I've never done it with like putting the bustier underneath it, but that's what you do. So I will try to get that, like I'll try to get some nice video of that. Just because that's the part that's probably going to make me the craziest, because even though I do have to sew all the scallop trim on, making the trim and sewing it on is going to be fairly simple because it's all straight lines. This is not going to be straight lines. And I am also considering actually, once I have the skirt put together, getting a petticoat, like getting a pink petticoat that is really close to this pink, and just sewing it in under the skirt so it's one piece. That's a maybe. I don't know, but I am considering it. But yeah, I will try to get the part that I think is going to be the biggest headache on video, because kind of the whole point of this is to talk about, it is a process, but part of this for me is teaching myself, hey, it's worth it because the end result is going to be this. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a stunner. That being said, I do think I'm going to skip making the stole, because I would have to make a whole bunch of scallop trim and then pin it in place and then sew it onto netting. And no, it's not even so much the sewing as it is that stole will have to be stored very carefully so it doesn't get creases in it, because that kind of netting can crease pretty easily, and I wouldn't want that if I'm wearing it out. So I think instead what I'm going to do, I have a couple of like shrugs and soles from the 1950s in my pattern library. So I think I may just eventually make something that matches what I already have, um, so that I can have a little covering if I would like it. And then I don't have to sew tricksy little scallops onto knit fabric. That is my trick. So that's where it is. That's where Bitch Y is right now. I'm still not sure I have enough yarn left for the skirt, but by getting the bustier and the waistband done, all the other pink yarn is for the skirt. So maybe it'll surprise me. Also, there is some stretch here, and I don't want to stretch it all the way out because I do want to maintain a little bit of that flexibility. Um, but I am willing to like use the stretch here to add an inch or two as I go, to cut down on the amount of rows I have to make. And then also it'll sew to the waistband a little easier, I think, if I do let it stretch a little bit, because then maybe what I can do is like, I don't know, we'll see. I'm gonna try to film when I put that together too, because I think it's gonna be a little tricky. We'll see. Anyway, I am going to go and film a video to explain what the hell is going on back here, because there is something going on. And I will update you when next I have done some work on it. So if you enjoy what I do here, please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, all of that fun stuff. And I will see you when I see you.